Welcome back to the Garden with Joe and Holly radio show. Happy you're with us today. We're going to discuss nut trees, but first, a word from our bee friends at Honey Bee Healthy.
Since 2000, Honey Bee Healthy Inc. has helped beekeepers maintain healthy and thriving hives. Attracting pollinators to your garden this year is as simple as hanging a hummingbird feeder with a mixture of sugar water and Honey Bee Healthy Original. Don't be alarmed to see birds, bees, and butterflies dining together at the feeder. Pollinators coexist peacefully. Honey Bee Healthy is offering a 10% discount on an 8-ounce bottle of Honey Bee Healthy Original to this show's listeners. Enter code BEEGARDEN at checkout for more information. Mixing instructions and to purchase products, go to honeybeehealthy.com.
So nut trees, Holly. Now, if you want to add a level of additional sustainability to your property, fruit trees and nut trees are those items. Now, these are not necessarily a quick to produce item. These are a longevity. Once you get established and maintain, they will grow and produce for many, many years.
Right. So the first one we can, or also, before we go into this,
yes.
I know many people may have never grown a tree before or have thought about growing a tree. And I think that one thing to mention is that, you know, as you mentioned, that they will grow for many, many years, but to consider the spot you're growing in.
Uh-huh.
So you have to think about the canopy of the tree, how much space it's going to take up. Any care that it might require. And then also, as we go on to talk about walnut trees are great, but black walnuts produce this chemical called, I think it's Julon. And that can be a drawback because
it's a soil toxicity.
Yeah, it's toxic to soil, and it can prevent you from growing certain things directly in your soil when it's within the base-ish of the tree.
It will also, keep this in mind, it will also start killing off adjacent trees. If you've got a black walnut tree in proximity to an oak or an ash or whatever the tree is, you will begin to see that other tree take significant downturns because of the poison in which that walnut tree is producing in the soil in order to protect itself so it doesn't get choked out.
So you want to do some research. You want to know things like how long is it going to take before it produces.
Let's go with black walnut. 8 to 10 years is the rough estimate on most trees before they start producing. Now, that's where that old saying came from. When's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago or today?
Right. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, just again, how big it gets, etc. So maybe one of those things that if you look for dwarf variety, it might grow sooner, quicker, produce faster, might work for your area as well. So there's a lot of different types of trees that are now becoming more accessible or available to people, so to keep that in mind.
And also, now this may seem, common knowledge, but before you decide to go buy a walnut tree or a hickory tree or a hazelnut tree or a chestnut tree, be sure you like it. Because we see this in the gardening vegetable world. Oh, I'm trying to grow okra and having a heck of a time doing such. Well, do you like okra? Well, not really. Well, why are you growing it? Know that you're going to like these particular nuts trees before you plant and wait 10 years to get a harvest. And do your research, like you said, understand how they distribute their produce and what kind of mess they may leave, how much may come down at one time. We had a pear tree that it would produce wonderful pears, but the first big wind, you had like 300 pounds of pears on the ground, and most of them rotted because you couldn't do anything with that many poundage of pears.
Right. So hazelnut, this is a popular one in more northern growing zones because it does so well, and it's more of like a shrub than a tree. So you want to keep that in mind as well. They're something to grow. And then there is a hickory pecan cross called a hecan, and a lot of people like those because those are easier to shell and taste better than hickory nuts. They're more of like the classic pecan flavor.
Hazelnut, early as 2 to 3 years. It can grow and produce between 10 and 15 years. Their peak is 10 to 15 years. And most of these trees can grow in areas of growing zones between 4 and 8, as many of our listeners are located. But again, you want to do your research. If you're in the northern portions of North Dakota, you may want to change what you wanted to grow versus if you were in Kansas City, Missouri.
Another one is cool climate pecans or pecans, cool climate pecans. And they can be grown in zones 5 to 9, and then do better in the south, obviously. They are bred to withstand the colder conditions, so that is an option if you do want to grow pecans, which seem to be a popular nut.
You can do a lot of this. You also want to find out with these trees, do you need 2 trees to pollinate? Are these self-pollinating trees, or do you need a pair of trees to pollinate? Just like you do with some pear trees, some apple trees, some cherry trees. Some are self-pollinating. Others, you have to have a pair or several of them in order to make all of the production to produce.
Yes. So there is a Russian almond. I didn't know this. I knew like certain pecans and hazelnuts and chestnuts and blah, blah, blah. Russian almonds are not sweet. So if you're like, oh, I can grow this almond tree. No. I mean, you can. You can, but they tend to be bitter. There's possibility that there could be, they could be sweet depending on where you are, if there's a certain variety of cultivar, but for the most part, Russian almonds are not sweet, they're bitter. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Just because it sounds familiar to you doesn't mean that it's what you're expecting.
And just because you think you remember eating it as a child doesn't mean that it may have been what you ate as a child. You need some verification, because if you are a parent or an aunt, or you sometimes tell the kids that, yeah, that's what this is, when it's really not that.
Okay.
Yeah, that is such and such, and you're just trying to get the kid to eat it. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. So yeah, there's also something called there's chestnuts, obviously. Most people are familiar with chestnuts. There's a chinquapin. It is a member of the chestnut family, but it's more of a shrub. So you do have options for shrubs and shorter trees to grow. So that's another idea as well, if you want something that's a little bit less tree-like.
Well, true. And these trees, you can control how tall they get. There are 2 rules of thought when it comes to fruit trees and nut trees. Plant them and walk away, and what nature does, nature does. Or plant them and nurture them and baby them and trim them and love them and take care of them and shape them. There's not right or wrong there. One's more labor intensive, yes. The advantage to the loving and taking care of, you do not have a 30-foot tree where you are difficult in order to harvest the produce in which the tree is producing. So that, you take the good with the bad there.
So we also have the American bladdernut, which sounds kind of funny. This is another shrub, and you would want to do some looking to see what it tastes like. They do have slightly larger yields and larger size nuts, so that way maybe you can get a better harvest once the tree does start to produce. Just like anything, things can vary. Like, for example, we planted a cherry shrub thing. What was dwarf cherry tree?
Yeah, dwarf cherry.
Like, yeah.
Cherry bush.
Cherry bush. And we just never really got any cherries.
No.
So not trying to scare you from planting these items, but it is the truth. There is a chance that you might plant something and it's not going to do anything.
And if you do not have a nut tree currently, acorns. People take and harvest acorns and make a variety of different things. Acorn pancakes is one of them. So you don't have to currently have a nut tree. Now you can see if you are in an area in which there are pick your own farms that do have these such a plants that you can go and get a bucket full or a pail full of a specific variety of nuts for cooking or just for eating.
That's a good option as well to see. Also, I think that because we have so much information online, you could see how people are harvesting these and how they're cracking them open. Right? Is this super hard to?
Do I need a hammer or what is it called? A hydraulic axe?
Yeah. And I just remember, I don't know if it was walnuts or chestnuts or something, but when I was growing up, somebody down the street from me had this tree, and the nuts would fall down, and we would open them up, but they would stay in our hands. It might have been, I guess that would have been, what's it called?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Walnut. Is it the walnut?
Black walnut is one of the most popular ones.
I don't know. It was just there. I just remember that you would stay in your hands, and I don't know if we even got to the nut part because there was like this out hard.
It looked like the black walnut looks like a green apple.
Yeah.
And the green apple kind of breaks away and turns into like a charcoal, and the nut is inside of the center of that.
That's what we had. So it was a black walnut.
Yeah.
There you go. I think the tree ended up dying. I don't know. Anyway.
With that being said, summer is fully in swing, and the Japanese beetles are attacking your yard and garden, but there is a solution to that situation.
If you're looking to successfully control beetles without damaging the environment, look no further than Beetle Gone from Phylum Bioproducts. Derived from a naturally occurring soil bacteria, Beetle Gone is the only organic solution that successfully controls beetle invaders. Just mix the powder with water and spray it on your plants. Once ingested, the targeted pest will stop feeding and die. And since it's an organic BT product, it's a great choice to use on your fruits and veggies in addition to your ornamental flowers and trees.
Not only does Beetle Gone work, the best part about it is environmentally safe, meaning it does not affect beneficial insects such as ladybugs, butterflies, and bees, and has no water toxicity when it comes to using it. You can go to BeetleGone.com to find out all the products that you need that they have available. That's BeetleGone.com.